pointers, whether it's pointers by themselves, pointers that point to arrays, or pointers that point to pointers. Something about this concept just drives people crazy. And if you're a new programmer, well, you're not alone. I was one of those people when I learned C back in the day, and like you, I was eager to understand. In this video, I'll show you what a pointer is so you can fully understand how they work, the syntax of pointers so you can easily read them, and finally, why everyone cares so much about pointers and what they're used for. Before we start, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, define topics like this and much more on a weekly basis. What is a pointer? The question has been asked since the beginning of time. Well, maybe not that long, but computer science students have been asking this question for a while. Pointers are not that complicated, and let me show you why. To understand what a pointer is, we need to first understand how memory works. So here, I've laid out an example of memory. Memory in our example has two features, an address and a value. The address is the location of the memory, meaning where that memory lives. And the value of that memory is the data stored at that location, meaning what memory lives there. So for example, if I put a 4 here, what does that mean? All that means is that the value 4 lives at location hex 1000. Easy. And the notation in C, for example, may be int x equals 4, which gets allocated to that memory on the stack, and now that number lives there. So what happens now if at another location, I put the number hex 1000 at address hex 1004? I've just created a pointer. You may be thinking, low-level learning, how is this possible? That's just a number at a location. Well, guys, that's the secret. A pointer is just a value that happens to be an address. Mind blown. By setting the value of one variable equal to the address of another, that variable now points to the other. For new programmers, though, most of the time, that isn't as easy as it seems. One of the most common issues new programmers have with pointers is the syntax used to create them. The combination of stars and ampersands and arrows and more stars creates a lot of confusion. So let's break this down using our previous example. In our last example, we made an integer x whose value was 4 at location hex 1000. After that, we made a pointer that lived at address hex 1004, whose value was hex 1000. So how do we do that in C? We can do that using two lines of code, and I'll break them down part by part. The first line is int x equals 4. This line is pretty straightforward. The first part, integer, is the type of the variable, which is 4 bytes wide, and this will matter later in the video. The second part is the name. Nothing special here, just the variable name x. And then after that, we put an equal sign, which when describing C, we can verbalize the equal sign to is set to. And then finally, the value 4. So the final sentence we've come up with is integer whose name is x is set to the value 4. Okay, easy part over. Next is the hard part. To make a pointer to x, like we did in our example, I would say the following line of C. Int star px is equal to ampersand x. Now, I know that sounds pretty crazy, a little scary. Let's break it down piece by piece. From left to right, we can see the type again, starting with int. But next, we see the dreaded asterisk. What does that mean? When an asterisk is placed next to a type, it modifies the type, meaning that our variable is now a pointer to an integer. So our variable here points to a 4-byte value. Next, the variable's name, which is px, or pointer to x. You can name it whatever you want, but this is a good habit, using p to denote that it's a pointer.